There's so much disinformation in ChatGPT, GROK, and other AIs about climate change that I wanted to stop and talk to you right now about the dangers of using AI to understand climate change. Here's how this topic came up. I was talking to a friend and he used AI to research some stuff about climate change, and it was totally wrong. It was like totally wrong information, bad information on climate, inaccurate, false. And so I had to stop, walk him through the whole thing and show him why and how it was wrong, and show him why and how AI had made these problems. So I'm going to share that with you. So the first thing is that AI is an accumulation of data, meaning that it's taking all the data that's on the internet going way back, and it kind of puts those all together and it gives it relatively equal footing. So it's accumulated all this data. Most of it is wrong, right? So if we were to accumulate all the data that we knew about astronomy going back to, say, 1000 BC or 2000 BC, and then we used it just as relevant with each other, then we would say that we didn't know a lot about the solar system. But in fact, we do, right? NASA's been out there, done a huge amount. We know a lot about it. We got to prioritize that and everything else. But the key is that it's just an accumulation of all this data, and then it tries to give you a report and information on what does all this data say, without being able to understand how to sift through the data and make sense of it like a scientist would. What does that do? What it means is that you go to ask ChatGPT, for example, about how to operate a piece of software or a version of an app or something like that. And what happens is it's reaching out to all the YouTube text, it's reaching out to all this information, it's pulling up old manuals from 3 years ago, PDFs and so forth, and it gives you an answer. But that answer isn't the way the buttons look today. The answer isn't the way the software operates today because they just didn't update a month ago. And all of that information is now out of date and doesn't work. But it's giving you the information it thinks is the best, but it's not, because it doesn't know what the updates mean and how they work. Because like, how many times have you gone to look for how to do something on a YouTube video and it gives you this thing? It's like the screen doesn't even look the same that it's showing you in the YouTube video. The guy's steps are all wrong. And that's what ChatGPT and GROK and other AIs are doing. They're still collecting all that old data. Second, it captures in the whole metaverse of everything on the internet, there's a radical amount of fossil fuel misinformation, lies, distractions, and distortions. And there's also a lot of old scientist information who just made a mistake in their data and their calculations. And there's a huge number of people that have, for either just their belief in the system or their belief in the fossil fuel industry, or they just got the information from someone who they trust or a political point of view, that think that, for example, climate change is a hoax. Now, they all hear this, ChatGPT and all GROK hear this millions of times in all the data when they're looking through it. It's a hoax, there's these problems, here's this. Huge number of things that you can go to any scientific website and see right away it's not true. But ChatGPT, GROK, they all imagine that it's true. The other part of that is that they feed on the information from scientists and other people who are opposed to this. They want nuclear energy instead. They want this, they want that. And they write their own papers. So there's a massive amount of disinformation. They don't know how to hear the signal through the noise. They don't know how to find the needle in the haystack of all the crazy data out there. So they don't know how to sift through it for you to give you the most accurate, correct answer. They're giving you an amalgamation. They're giving you a big blob of a whole bunch of stuff and listing these giant lists of things, but it's not accurate. Let me give you an example. So I asked ChatGPT to tell me what would happen at a certain date, at a certain temperature, what's likely to happen. And it came back with saying that, well, we're going to have about 1 billion machines that suck carbon out of the atmosphere. And I was like, what? So yeah, the technology is already here. I'm like, no, it's not. But it thinks it is because it's reading like popular science articles that say we can suck all the carbon out of the air. Well, it's just not true. It's not happening. And it's wildly expensive. And it will be wildly expensive. And it's going to take a huge amount of energy, which means you're burning more fossil fuels for energy. So the whole point is that it's giving you misinformation and it doesn't know. It's thinking it is giving you the right stuff, but it's giving you bad information. It's giving you lies from fossil fuel industries. It's giving you the misinformed repetition from millions of people all over the internet. Okay, and the third danger, and this is probably the worst, is that it doesn't know how to prioritize, capture, understand, or integrate the most up-to-date science. So for example, the information on climate change is exploding. The data coming in from the scientists, the papers they're writing, the new models, everything else that gets improved by using AI properly and by using some of the quantum computing, they're able to really understand things that we didn't understand before. For example, why are 2024 and 2025 so much hotter than the years that came before? Well, the leading scientists understand, but ChatGPT doesn't. The papers are out, but it hasn't read the papers. It doesn't understand the papers. It doesn't know how to prioritize or make them relative to the old data. So it's just giving old data when new data has come in and has left it way behind in the dust, right? So, for example, it's the equivalent of saying, well, the flip phone works just great. You can call anybody with this thing. And you're sitting here with the new iPhone or the new Galaxy Ultra 24 or something like that. It's like, no, it's a very different world. And so the AIs are way behind on understanding the implications of the modern data. Let me give you an example. If you were flying an airplane across, let's say, from London to New York, and the systems that you were relying on were from 20 years ago to get you across there, you're not nearly going to be so accurate as the brand new technology, the brand new software that can literally land the plane by itself. Tells you within meters of where you're supposed to be, lands the plane perfectly, pretty much without the pilots if you want to. And we didn't have that 20 years ago, but now they have the new data, the new science, the new technology. Well, that difference creates a whole world of difference if you are in a storm, there's complete zero visibility and things like that. You want to have the most up-to-date data. So now with climate, we have the most up-to-date data, the most important information. And it's pretty frightening. It's pretty terrifying if you actually read the data. But ChatGPT is saying, it's going to be fine. We're going to build all these, new technologies are going to emerge and everything else. Well, guess what? Not in time. Not in time. So if you rely on ChatGPT, GROK, and other AIs for all the different information you're going to get, it's not worth it. So on another video, I'll teach you how to use AI and other tools properly so that you can sort out and sift out the disinformation and how to ask the right questions to get it to give you the right information. So for example, ChatGPT and GROK are continuing to repeat the economic myth that at 3 degrees Celsius, right, we're at 1.5 now, at 3 degrees Celsius, where the insurance agencies are saying we're going to lose half of the people in the world possibly at 3 degrees Celsius here. The economics of this are ChatGPT thinks we're only going to lose 1% of our GDP. Well, how is it possible that you're going to lose 1% of your GDP if you lose 3 billion people on the planet and half the food is gone, right? So this is a thing. There's a wild disconnect between what it knows to be true, which is very little accuracy when it comes to climate, and what it thinks is true. And I think we have to really examine that. Recently, I made a video for you on the really horrific heat waves that have been going around the world. And they're going to get worse and worse. And you can learn about it down below. But ChatGPT would say they're not a real thing. They're not a real problem. What I want you to do is watch that video. Let me know what you think in the comments. And then ask me the questions that you have about climate and about global heating. And I'll be glad to answer them.